Well, hello, Gerstell family. Welcome. This is the first couple of recordings that I'm doing for you while I'm out of town. I'm sorry to miss you all, but I really need a vacation. So the way that things are going to work today and the next couple of days that you are going to be doing these recordings, we're going to be doing a short, about 20-minute sequence. So we're going to kind of put some of the things together that we've been learning the last few weeks. We may be adding a couple of things that you have not yet seen, but don't worry, I'll be sure to make sure that I'm showing you how to do everything properly. So for today's practice, what you are going to need is one yoga block and one strap. Okay, so we're just going to use this strap. We're actually going to need this pretty early on in the practice, so make sure that you grab it and you're going to lay all the way down onto your back. So go ahead and lay down, bring the strap along with you, just put it off to the other side. And when you come down all the way onto the earth or the mat, you're just going to take a moment to check in with your body. So as you rest here, go ahead and get comfortable and start to notice what's showing up. What are you feeling? Is there any space in your body that's a little bit tight? So we always want to begin our practice by checking in, just sort of seeing how we're feeling. And not just how our physical bodies are feeling, but our emotional state as well. So think a little bit about ahimsa, that first of the yamas that we learned early in our school year together, which has only been a couple of weeks, but the doing of no harm. And if we are, kind of beating ourselves up for certain things, perhaps we've set a goal that we feel we keep failing at. Maybe it's a habit that we're trying to fix, and we just can't seem to get away from it. Rather than beating yourself up about it, start to think about it being more like a stepping stone. You're going to learn from your mistakes. Every step back is not a step back. It's just another chance to learn. So with that in mind, you want to be aware of what you're saying to yourself. The moments you feel as if you're failing or you're just not getting anywhere with a habit or something that you're just crazy about that you do within yourself, remember ahimsa, do no harm. And I think it's more important that we try to be kind to ourselves before we think about being kind to others. So let me talk about that for just a second. Of course you can be kind to others and not be kind to yourself. But wouldn't it be a lot easier if you were speaking kindly to yourself than to additionally speak kindly to those in your world? Just think about that for a moment. We're going to focus today on our hamstrings quite a bit. So as you start to wiggle your fingers and deepen your breathing just a little bit, you're going to start to bend your knees and plant your feet flat on your mat, like you're going into a little bit of a bridge pose. You're going to keep your left foot on the floor and you're going to hug your right knee in towards the chest. Hands can go in front of the shin bone, or if you're really tight, you'll take it behind your hamstring. Once you get the knee into the chest, we call this Ardha, which is half, Apanasana, which is the wind releasing pose. So just be aware that from time to time, a little air biscuit might slip out, and that's totally normal. And in fact, we actually have a yoga pose that encourages it. So pulling that right knee into the chest, we're going to extend the left leg forward, flexing the foot and allowing that heel to come to the mat. So pull your right knee in a little bit more. And then you're going to keep your left hand on your right thigh. You're going to open your right arm out to the side and draw the knee across the body. Now, that knee does not need to touch the floor. In fact, if you're keeping your right shoulder on the mat, it probably will not. I personally like to have my left hand on that right thigh to kind of draw it down. It just gives me a little bit more of a stretch. That might not feel good for you, so you can have both arms out to the side if that feels good. So twists are really nice for detoxing the body and also stretching out the lower back. On your next inward breath, you're going to bring that right knee back into the chest, return to center, and bring your left knee in. This time you're going to put your right foot on the floor, knee bent, hands around that left hamstring, draw the left knee in. So the right knee into the right chest, you always start Apanasana on the right side if you're doing it single leg, and that is to get into the descending colon. Okay, so your colon is responsible for your, elimination of stuff in the body. So we want to make sure that we always start with the right knee so that we don't really confuse our colon. The left side is your descending colon. Right side is ascending. I hope I said that right the first time. Go ahead and extend your right foot forward, hug that left knee in even more. Maybe point those right toes a little bit. Right hand can stay on left leg. Left arm can open out to the side wide. Pull the knee across the body gently. It's not a forceful pull. It's just a guidance. And then once you get there, keep that left shoulder on the mat. If you want to release the right hand wide to make a T with the other body, you can. Or you can keep your hand gently guiding that knee towards the floor. This should feel really good in your body. So if something's not feeling right or good, then evaluate. You can always talk to me or shoot me a message if you need to. We'll take just one more breath, and then we're going to introduce a new pose. It's called Happy Baby. So some of you that are my returning students may recognize this one. But you're going to pull your knees into the chest. Notice that my feet are flexed. You're going to take both legs and straighten them out for just a moment. Yeah. Your tailbone, we now know, is way here at the bottom of the spine. It's that little bony thing that kind of sticks out. So that part stays on the mat. If you're lifting your hips up, the feet are going to come back, and you're curling the spine down. So we want to keep that low back long. From here, you're going to take your hands to the inside of your thighs, above your knees, or below your knees, depending on how you think about it. But you're not on the knee and you're not on the calf, so your inner thighs. Start to flex your ankles a little bit more and pull those knees down. Your goal here is to stack your ankles over the knees and pull the knees out wider than the rib cage. So this is your happy baby pose. If you've got a little more mobility, you can crawl up and grab your ankles. If you can grab the feet, that's fine. Just notice that your hips will probably come off the floor in order for you to get your hands on your feet. So you want to make sure that that part is moving down. Some people like to rock a little bit here. You can do that if that feels good in your own body. And then we're going to just find a little bit of movement here in just a moment. So hug the knees back into the chest. Place your left heel back on the mat. Grab your strap or your yoga mat. So I actually don't have mine here. Mine's at school, so I'm improvising, which is a really nice way for you guys to see that you can improvise too. So you can use a long sleeve shirt. You could use leggings if you're at home and you don't have your strap nearby. A towel, whatever works. So you're just going to loop that thing around the ball of your foot. Let the toes come towards your feet. So this is all about your hamstrings. So keeping your low back flat, start to work your right thigh towards your upper body. Some of you will feel this immediately. You've got each strap in each hand, and if it's long enough to let your tricep muscles come to the floor, do that. And then look at your hands. Are you white knuckling? Meaning, are you squeezing that strap so tight that your knuckles have changed color? You want to release that grip a little bit and just sort of let your hamstring lengthen on its own. So although we are stretching, there is a matter of force that's coming here. It is not hardcore stretch. We are just easing into our class. And just holding the leg up like this, that hamstring naturally is going to start to release and open. We're going to come inner thigh stretch, so gather both ends of the tail of the strap into your right hand, okay? Right elbow is going to come down, and your left hand is going to stay on your left thigh. Extend the left leg forward. Glue that heel into the mat. Do not let it move. You're going to start pulling your thigh towards your chest. Keep your toes coming towards your nose. That might be just enough stretch for you as it is. Left hand stays on that left leg. You're going to start to open your right thigh out towards the side. The second, listen closely, that your left butt cheek starts to come off the mat is your body's way of saying you've gone too far. Pull your toes back more towards your face. You'll feel it inner thigh, but you should also still be feeling this in the hamstring. Just because you can open this leg out to the side doesn't mean you should. And I see it all the time. I feel zero in my body. The thing I'm feeling when I have this leg all the way up to the side is my grip on my strap. Otherwise, I get nothing out of this posture. So by keeping that leg pulling back and opening out here and the foot flex, you're going to get a better stretch rather than just letting it flop out towards the side. Pull it back through center. Both straps will now come to your left hand. You're going to take your right hand and place it up by your right hip bone and kind of push it down like you're trying to glue it into space. You're going to pull your thigh back towards your face, and this time you're going to start coming across the body. You'll feel it in this stretch here. This IT band area starts at the hip, comes down towards the top of the knee. It is not far, my friends. I would say maybe I've come across my body 3 inches. This is another one where I see people come across the body all the time, but you got to hold this hip in place because we're really focusing more on the hamstring, not as much on that IT band. Don't worry, you will start to hear these words over and over again, and they will make sense. We're going to go half happy baby. So bringing the straps both into the right hand again. You're going to start to bend that knee and just pull down. Look how my foot is flexed here, keeping the toes pressing down towards your shoulder, heel pressing up towards the sky. All right, go ahead and remove that strap. You're going to bend the right leg and put that right foot on the floor, knee to the chest on the left side. Loop your strap around the ball of that left foot. Again, a loose but firm grip on the strap, and let your shoulders come down as well as your triceps. Heel towards the sky, toes towards the nose. That's the most important thing. Low back on the mat. So you got to press down through the lower back, sacral plate and tailbone. All right, so kind of ask yourself, where do you feel the stretch? If you close your eyes and kind of, take an internal gaze at your body, you should start to kind of recognize where you're feeling it more. Hamstrings are really what we're focusing on today. And for the record, this would be considered like a gentle yoga practice that we're about to do. All right, both straps are going to come to the left hand. Your right leg will go straight out, flex the foot, right hand on your right thigh. Pull the leg back towards your face first. That's where we get the hamstring stretch, and then allow it to start to open out towards the side. So you're going to continue to pull your thigh back towards your shoulder, and then get your heel towards the sky. The right hand is stabilizing that right butt cheek. So if you keep opening the leg out, eventually your butt cheek will come off the mat. You got to stabilize and hold it into place. Hamstring more than the inner thigh. Moving across the body, take one more breath here. And then go ahead and walk that leg back to neutral. You're going to take the straps into the right hand this time. Left hand is going to come to the left hip. Press the left hip down towards the ground. Pull those toes towards your face. And then we're coming across the body 1 to 5 inches, not far. We're not looking to come all the way over and let that foot hang. What I am most concerned with is you pushing your left hip down to the floor and holding it in place. That will give you a deeper, better, more effective stretch. All right, we are coming into that half happy baby. So return to center, let the straps come back into the left hand, let the elbow come to the floor, start to bend the knee. Remember the goal here is to keep your ankle stacked over knee. It's not going to be totally perfect, right? You're not going to have a perfect 90-degree ankle. You might, but I do not. So my foot's a little behind the knee itself, but I'm still working it. Good. Next time you exhale, go ahead and draw the leg back in. You're going to move the strap off to the side. Keep it somewhere close, and then bring both knees into the chest, nose to the knees. You should be in this full Uttanasana pose. Hug your knees in like a cannonball. And then slide your hands to the backs of your hamstrings. You're going to rock from the back to the front about 3 times. And eventually, you should be able to sit all the way up and forward onto your hands and knees. 3 cat-cows here. We've been doing a lot of cat-cow. Remember to spin the inner elbow forward. Look at what that just did to my tricep. So when you bring the fleshy inner part of your elbow forward, that tricep spins towards the back of your mat. Totally changes things, right? So you want to commit that sensation to memory for your downward facing dog. All right, you should have about 2 more of these cat-cows. If you haven't started, go ahead and do a couple. Last one. Find a nice flat back. You're going to curl your toes under. Lift your knees 1 inch off the floor. This is the test. 1 inch. Is that 1 inch or 5? Try to lower it down. Brace your belly. Soften the elbows a little bit. Float your shoulder blades apart. 1 more breath. Exhale. Straighten the backs of the legs. Downward facing dog. So we learned last week that down dog and your plank should be best friends, meaning you should be able to get from one to the other. So shift into your high plank. Now, if you came at it the same way I did, you'll notice my shoulders have surpassed even my fingertips. So we got to adjust so the shoulders are above the wrist and the back is flat. And then from here, lift your hips and press your ribs back to your thighs. Now, many of you have reached out to me and told me that you can't get your heels down, and I think that's fantastic, actually. So if you are bending your knees, your heels will definitely not touch the ground. And you're bending your knees, you can lift your hip bones a little bit more. So I'd rather you have your heels lifted and your belly back to your thighs, and feet flat, and a short step, okay? All right, we're gonna go ahead and drop the knees to the mat. We are gonna learn a new pose, it's called lizard. I'm gonna turn to face you. You're gonna lift your right foot up and back, and then like a karate kick, bring it around to the side. Go ahead and take it back. So we're gonna do that 2 more times. Bring your toes out towards the right, sweep the leg around. My leg is still pretty straight. Bring it back in. You've got 1 more. Keep coming around. You're gonna need to lean into that left side and step your right foot to the right hand. Okay, so your lizard is gonna start like a low lunge. Your low lunge, we wanna come to 90 and 90. Now here's the deal. There's 2 different ways that we're gonna do a low lunge. The first one is how we're gonna do it today. The next one I'll explain a little bit later. So for today, we're going to stay in this 90-degree angle. So your hip is stacked above your knee in the back leg, your knee is stacked above your ankle in the front leg. You're going to take your hands to your hips and you're going to pull your right hip back to pull the left hip forward. You guys are starting to hear this quite a bit. Okay, from here, tuck your pelvis down so they've got your tailbone moving towards your heel, and that should give you a stretch here in the hip flexor. Okay, so we're just going to hold here for a moment, tucking the tail towards the floor. And then for lizard, you're going to bring your hands down to the ground inside your right foot. So right hand is on the inside of the right foot. My right shoulder and knee are connected, and here is your lizard. Now, as you come down, your knee is not going to be at 90 degrees in the back. In fact, you need to walk those toes away from your upper body a little bit. We're going to hold here. So this is a little bit of a hip opener. What's happening in your belly, pull the abs up and in, and press your heart forward. 2 more. On the next outward breath, grab your block, bring it back with you. We're going to start to pull that right heel towards the floor, but pull your toes up. So we're going to move into a half split. Ardha Hanumanasana. It's just a fun one to say. Half split, my heel is down, my toes are up. Okay, I'm not sitting on my back heel. There should be no connection between your bottom and your foot. The work is coming in that front heel. If you need a little bit more, meaning you need more stretch here, press your heel forward, maybe even pick it up and then dig it down into the ground. Yikes. That's a pretty deep stretch. So in your half split, your shoulders need to stay above your wrist. That's why we have a block. If you're really tight, you might not be able to get your hands flat on the floor. This is where the block comes in handy. Okay, couple more breaths. You should be feeling a nice juicy stretch of that front hamstring. Enjoy it. If you're not feeling anything, make sure your foot is flexed. We'll take 1 more breath. And then as you exhale, you're going to bend that right knee, stand into the right foot. On your hands, move the block off to the side. You will need it in a moment. Tip a little off to the left. Sweep your right leg around. Readjust, and we'll take your child's pose. So child's pose, you're just allowing your hips to shoot back towards your heels and letting your back get nice and relaxed. You can stack one hand on top of the other and let your forehead rest there, or you can allow your head to come all the way down, hands overhead or hands by your feet. Up to you. All right, we're going to do that on the other side. So we'll take 2 more breaths in child's pose. Trying not to rush, but also being prepared for what's coming next. So hands on your shoulders, let's pick ourselves up. We'll come into that half or into that tabletop position. So it is the left leg that's going to lift this time. I'm going to stay sideways. You can see, make sure that you're not doing this thing in your midsection. So you got to kind of lift up and be really firm and strong in your belly. Flex your foot, bring that leg out to the side like a karate chop. Bring it back to the back. 2 more. Come around. Oh yeah. On the last one, we're going to circle that foot all the way around and step it to the outside of that left wrist. Okay, here we go. We're coming up into our 90-90. Pull back in that knee a little bit so you're stacked. Left hand to the left hip crease. Pull back. I got to readjust. Okay, and you're not pressing your hip forward, but I do want you to lift your rib cage and then just kind of open in that quad a little bit. So we're not really gonna, like try to arch the back, rather try to tuck the tail towards the mat itself. You don't need to go far to get a good quad stretch here. I love this. All right, moving into our lizard pose. You may or may not need a block for this. Just go ahead and walk your hands down. Adjust so your right leg is a little bit longer. Your left knee and shoulder are together. Okay, so you're not going to let this knee flop out. But you might want to step it out a little bit wider as far as the foot goes. My friends that need a block under the wrist, if your wrists are starting to get sore, blocks are great. Okay. So lizard is really nice. Quad stretch, hip flexor stretch, hip opener. All those muscles are connected in some way to the hamstrings. And we'll start to shift back into that half split. So if you just bring your hips back, your hands, if they stayed in position, should be way forward, and they should not stay there. So once you get your leg to position, then your hands will come back. You can leave them on the block. You can come a little higher on the block if you need to. Doesn't matter, just as long as you get that hammy stretch. Close your eyes. How's your right or your left hamstring doing? You gotta sometimes just stop and ask yourself these things just to make sure that you're focusing on what you're doing. We'll take one more breath. Exhale, stepping into the left foot. Go ahead and walk your hands to the mat as you move your block out of the way. We'll just pull back a little bit, sweep your left foot around to the right, and we're gonna sit down onto our feet for just a moment. This is called Thunderbolt or Hero's Pose. That's just a relaxed variation of it, so we're not going to dig into it too much today, but you're just sitting back on your feet and allowing yourself to kind of rest for a moment. We're just about ready to wrap things up, but we do have a couple little things left I would like to do. So from here, lean forward, lift your hips away from your heels, tuck your toes under. You're going to hear me say that a lot, especially in downward facing dog. Curl the toes or tuck the toes. From this place, you're going to start to lift your hips and straighten your legs. Walk your hands backwards a little bit. Your feet should be about 6 inches. That is 2 of your fists between your big toes. So just take some time, take your fist, place them down in between your feet. And then from here, you're going to fold your body over your thighs and hook into your elbows. So right hand grabs left elbow and vice versa. And once you're here, your belly and your legs should be together. Remember, this is a forward fold. And it should feel pretty good. This is all about your hamstrings here. So eventually, after a few breaths, gravity will just naturally begin to tuck the crown of your head towards the floor. Can you lift your tailbone a little bit higher? Try not to pull your belly off your thighs. We got to keep that connection. And then on your next outward breath, release your hands to the mat. We're going to do like a little stretch here. So you're going to pick up your right heel and step into your left foot. So you should feel this more on your outside of the left leg. You'll feel it into the hamstring a little bit. And you can kind of decide how much you want to lean forward. We'll take 2 more breaths and then we will switch. Place that heel down, pick the other one up. It's like you got a really fancy pair of high heels on. Lay your belly on your thighs if you need to pick yourself up to make that happen, and take that time. And then just allow yourself to settle in. Two more breaths. Last one. Plant that heel down on the floor. You're going to slide your fingertips to the shins. Ardha Uttanasana. We're going to pause here for a moment. Make sure your hips are over your heels. Are my hips over my heels? No. Come forward. Don't fall. But stack your hips above your feet. And then you can hold your fingertips down the shins. Notice that your arms are straight. Your back should be flat. I know you guys can't see yourself if you are in school, so just kind of trust. And then from this place, we'll bring hands to the outside of the hips, hug your elbows to the ceiling, bend your knees, rise and shine. We're going to take one round of sun salutation A just to get us to the ground. So step to the very top of your mat, bring your big toes to touch, heels a little bit apart, spread your fingers out wide, sweep your arms out and overhead, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, forward fold, bend your knees, belly on thighs, Uttanasana. Fingertips to the shins. You'll come back to Ardha Uttanasana. And folding forward, exhale, plant your hands down. Take one leg back at a time. Shift forward, knees to the mat. Then the elbows, chest to the mat, chin to the mat. Lengthen the back of your legs to your rear part of the mat and find a cobra. And then push yourself into child's pose. Just stay here. What's changed since you stepped onto your mat? We'll just stay for one more breath. And then again, we'll come back into lightning bolt pose. So walk your hands under your shoulders, lift your chest away from your thighs. You're going to sit off onto one butt cheek and sweep your legs around to the front. Okay. So we've got couple seated poses before we totally lay down. So you're going to bend your knees, move your butt flush out of the way. You're going to take your arms, slide them underneath of your thighs, so behind the backs of your bent legs. Once you get that connection, your belly should naturally be on your thighs. You can start to straighten the legs. Your arms are here to prevent you from bending your knees completely. And yes, your back is going to be rounding a little bit, but still continue to pull your chest forward and think chin to shin. This is a pose that we hold a little bit longer. One more breath. Lift yourself up just slightly and then work one hand out from underneath of you at a time. Go ahead and rise all the way up. All right, we're just going to go ahead and lay all the way down onto the back. You don't need any props. Just bring your knees with you. Give yourself a good hug. And in this position, just allow yourself to draw some circles here with the knees. So we'll go about 4 circles all in one direction. And then we'll switch forward to the other direction. So when you pull your knees to the chest, you're massaging a little higher into the low back. And when your knees move away, you're getting a little closer towards the hip part of your lower back. All right, find some stillness. Go ahead and allow the feet to plant. Take your feet one heel, one toe wider, and then allow your inner knees to come into touch. Shavasana will be about 3 minutes, so we will take a couple collective breaths together. Hands to the lower belly area, close your eyes. Instead of just stacking one hand on top of the other, kind of lace your fingers together so that you're sort of, stacking your fingers in between one another. So as you breathe in this position, your fingers will move away from each other on the in-breath, and then they should return closer together on the out-breath. So we'll do a couple more like that. Now the space that comes between the fingers is minimal, so it's just subtle. On these next 2 breaths, ask yourself what is still tense and tight, and what has released and relaxed. We'll take a nice big breath in, full breath out. Stay here. Clear a little space behind the backs of your eyelids. And in this position, in this space, just imagine that you are on the beach. You're sitting either on a beach towel in the warm sand, or maybe you've got your chair that you're just kind of lounging in. Wherever it is, you are completely relaxed. And as you rest here, you're going to look up at the sky in your mind's eye. And every time you notice a thought kind of creeping in to steal your joy here, you're going to imagine that you're placing that worry on a cloud. And just visualize that cloud sort of drifting past where you may be. Some days we have lots of clouds, and other days we have an open sky. Remain as you are. Just find a little bit more of an intentional, deeper breath. And then start to wiggle your fingers so you can let them come apart. You may even want to just take a moment to stretch the arms over your head. You can let the knees come apart, straighten the legs, point those toes, and just allow full body stretch to come into the whole body. And then we'll pull the knees into the chest for one final hug. For argument's sake, we will just assume that we all have something to do when we're done today. So we're going to rock to the left side of the body. Let your left arm support your head, neck, and shoulders. And then just snuggle in here for a moment, taking the time to take some time. One more breath. Press into the right hand. Keep your eyes shut. Push yourself up to crisscross applesauce or Sukhasana. And as you come into this easy seat, draw your hands to prayer, letting thumbs press into your heart center. Sit nice and tall on your in-breath. Maintain that as you exhale and fold your forehead to your fingers. Be kind to yourself, ahimsa. Do no harm. If we do no harm to us, the chances of us harming others is reduced. Love, light, and joy, my friends. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. All right, friends, I will see you tomorrow or the next day. We're going to keep kind of moving through some just focused body parts. So tomorrow will be a little bit of a different one. All right, see you later. Have a great day.